Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Smishek's Custom Baits. Rick Smishek here. Today, we're going to finish up Chapter 4 of the book, Knowing Bass. Chapter 5 is on their vision, is on a bass vision. And I found that really interesting. So I think I have enough notes for 4 or maybe 5 episodes for Chapter 5. It was the longest chapter, and there was a lot of stuff in it that was that had to do with the construction of the bass eye. Stuff that I found kind of tedious to read. I don't need to know that. All I need to know is how it affects my fishing. And that's what we'll cover. We'll try to cover the stuff that affects our fishing, just like with the hearing. Okay, well, what is it exactly that bass listen for? Well, unfortunately, there is no solid research data on that. There has been very little research in that regard. There's been research on mating calls, but as far as what sounds attract fish, well, the only real exception to that is sharks. We've done research on sharks. In fact, it was the Office of Naval Research in the 60s and 70s. They were trying to come up with shark repellents, and so they did a whole bunch of research, things like from their smell, the sounds that attract them, all that stuff. What they found out was that they could attract a shark by playing the sounds of a large fish struggling on a spear. Okay. Later research showed that other piscivores, which piscivores, I think I'm saying that right, are fish that eat other fish. Okay. Other piscivores, including groupers, which are a close relative of the largemouth bass, responded to the exact same sounds that sharks responded to. Okay, so we can take that knowledge and make a reasonable assumption that it will also apply to the largemouth bass. Right? I'm gonna read this part here. I do this in just about every video now. There's a part of my notes that I basically read to make sure that I get it right, and this is for this video. Effective sound attractants for shark. First, they span a range of frequencies. Pure tones have little to no effect. Okay. Accentuate low frequencies. For the bass, it's 100 to 200 cycles per second. Discontinuous sounds as opposed to continuous sounds. Continuous sounds are quickly ignored, but pulse sounds are highly effective. Okay. Irregular beats. Unevenly spaced beats are far more attractive than a steady beat. Okay, so like when I used to fish at night with that single Colorado blade on the spinnerbait, I almost always drug it across the bottom or above the vegetation just fast enough to where it would hit the bottom or it would hit the tops of the weeds. And I think that it was as effective as it was because that little hit on the bottom or getting hung up in the weeds just momentarily, no matter how brief, changed the beat just enough to get fish to strike. Okay. But those unevenly spaced pulses are considerably more attractive than regularly spaced pulses. Okay. Acoustic lures. Let's talk about those for a little bit. What are they? Okay. Which lures count as acoustic lures? Well, we know that at least prop baits have been used since at least 1883. And how do we know that? Well, because we have a picture of a prop bait from 1883 that dates back to at least that time. So and we've likely used acoustics for a very, very long time. Maybe we didn't know why we were using them or exactly why, but fishermen have used these things for a long time. Crankbaits, due to their oscillating nature, and some that have rattle chambers, some have 2 rattle chambers, um, those count as acoustic lures. The wobble, the oscillating nature of the crankbait creates a considerable amount of hydrodynamic disturbances in the water. Soft plastics can be counted as acoustic lures when we add rattle chambers. Okay, they make glass ones specifically for putting in the soft plastics. Although I don't know why a plastic chamber wouldn't work as well. People also add clackers to things like finesse rigs and Carolina rigs. Surface poppers. There's another one. Surface poppers mix that curved face. Mixes air and water to create a gurgling sound, right? Buzz baits, prop baits, and spinner baits, they all use a rotating blade or blades to create hydrodynamic disturbances. And in some cases, like with the buzz bait, that usually that blade is squeaking on the wire a little bit, so there you have an audio element to it as well. Spinnerbait blades, let's talk about those briefly. The shallower the cup, okay, the higher the frequency of the sound. Willow leaf blades tend to have a shallower cup than Colorado blades, whereas Colorado blades, that deeper cup, creates a lower frequency sound, which is probably why Colorado blades are so attractive to bass, because it produces that low frequency sound. Wire size affects your spinner baits as well, and your buzz baits. The thicker the wire, the less the vibration. Okay, the thinner the wire, the more vibration you get. Bass are top predators, and they may not be the apex predator in every body of water, but they are. If they're not the top predator, they're right there at the top with other fish like tiger muskies, regular muskies, northern pike, etc. Even big catfish, 100-pound catfish is probably a little higher, just a little bit higher on the food chain than even a 10-pound largemouth bass is. In fact, the 10-pound largemouth bass might just be looked at as food. But bass also have a startle reflex that helps them escape from predators. It's triggered by a sudden change in acoustic intensity. Okay? Dropping something on the bottom of your boat, inside your boat, dropping it, bam, oops. You just a good chance you just startled the bass. They might not come back for 10, 15 minutes, or they might not come back until you leave. Low frequency sounds are more likely to trigger that startle response in bass. So we have to figure out how to use low frequency sounds without also triggering their startle response. Okay. So how do we apply what we know about a bass's lateral line and their hearing, their ears? Well, that's a question you guys can answer. What have you guys learned? How would you guys start to apply what we've learned in these 4 segments on their hearing? This is what I have to say about it. Because baitfish and crawdads rarely produce steady sounds, steady acoustic signals, we can vary our lure retrieves, not just in like how fast or how slow we're retrieving, although that can be a factor as well, but also in, instead of doing a retrieve, pause, retrieve, pause, retrieve, pause, retrieve, pause, retrieve, pause, maybe pause a little more, vary the retrieve in any way that you can think of, okay? Whether it's you're doing that rebel pop bar across the surface, twitch, twitch, let it sit for 5 seconds. Twitch, 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 let it set for maybe 2 seconds. You know, we can do those types of things as well. We can change, say maybe the next spinnerbait that I make next. I think this one was quarter rounds. Maybe next time, instead of putting 2 willow leaf blades on, maybe I'll swap out the small willow leaf for a small Colorado. Okay, that's something else we can do. Or we can just put 2 Colorado blades. We can change up those blades in what combinations we're putting them on our lures to change that acoustic signal as well. A good friend of mine, George, he suggested that maybe putting rattles on a chatterbait like this. And this one here, it's interesting to note, this one is a commercial chatterbait, and you can see that the skirt is basically 2 different lengths. Okay, I've done a little bit of that and wondered if I was doing it right. Well, this is a commercial one, so it probably is right. But he suggested that maybe rattles on this would be too much. I say, what if that's just the ticket, a single or dual rattle? Okay. First of all, this is a dual rattle arms, okay? And here's another one. You see the little ears on it, okay? We also have, right now I have 2 different sizes of rattle chambers, all right? What if, keeping with what we've known, with what we've learned, what if we take one of each of these and put it on this rattle collar to make it so that there's different frequencies from the same lure? What if we put them on this, because this is going to flop around, it's going to make, and the rattles, the sounds, the acoustic signals are going to be different from this one than they will be from this other one. And we could still use the same rattle chambers, or we could get different rattle chambers even. Those are just some ways that we could change things up. You know, putting those rattles on this chatterbait, that might be just the ticket to make your chatterbait different from the other half of the anglers that are out there in a tournament fishing with chatterbaits, making yours different from theirs. Okay, that might be just the ticket for that. So whatever ideas you guys have for how to apply this, what we've learned, whatever ideas you have, go ahead and put them in the comments down below. You know, I understand, fishermen, we don't always want to give up our secrets or our ideas, you know, because what if that's just the ticket, right? You always want to outfish your buddies, but in this case, why don't we try to help everybody out? Help everybody out on the channel who's watching these also. Give them some ideas. Maybe they'll put some of their ideas up too, right? So that's it for today's video. Then next video we'll be starting on chapter 5. So if you liked what you saw, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet already, please. We're getting there. We're pushing 760 subscribers already. Almost have 1,500 hours watched. Like Cisco and Ebert right here. Okay, 2 thumbs up for that stuff. And share. If you share the video so other people can enjoy the videos and learn from them as well. Until next time, folks. Tight lines, calm waters, and God bless.